for joining us mums at the table. It's your girl Fiona back here to talk parenthood with some fabulous real mums, namely Shona. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good to see you. Rachel. Rachel
Hi.
with a H.
Yep, I'm here.
And I know she's got the red. I always say this, but I do love the red.
It's for you. It's all for you.
Thanks, Rach. It's been a while. Good to see you, Julie.
You too.
Lovely to have you back on the set.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah. Now, I know our brothers and sisters and family members over there in Aotearoa are celebrating happy Waitangi Day. So we'd just like to say happy Waitangi Day to you over there. Stay safe, keep it cool and keep fresh. But coming up in this show, how do you stop your kids from crying? Find out why telling your kids don't cry is not good form. Whilst she is usually giving us the lowdown on fitness tips, our resident personal trainer, Alicia Christie, is here this time to give us the lowdown on her experience as a first-time mum. We will also chat with career expert Michelle Gibbons about the daunting return to work after kids and so much more. But first, while most of us grew up watching iconic cartoons like Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty and Little Mermaid, to name a few, one celebrity, the Bend It Like Beckham star, Keira Knightley, has banned her daughter from watching some of these cartoons, saying she doesn't like the way females are portrayed. And I quote, because she waits around for a rich guy to rescue her. Don't. Rescue yourself, she says. Ladies, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I support her wholeheartedly, but I don't think it's just Disney. I think most movies are unrealistic when it comes to relationships and love and that sort of thing.
So have you stopped your children from watching these type of films that condone, you know, a man coming in and rescuing a woman?
Yeah, not just because of that. There's a whole lot more to it, and it's probably because I grew up in Papua New Guinea, so I wasn't brought up with a lot of Disney stuff, any of those books. I'd never read Beauty and the Beast until it came out in the movies, you know, a few years ago. So I probably wasn't influenced by that, but I have sort of protected them from those movies. But that's because, and I've said this before, I want them to have real female role models. I want them to know the women in their lives, to trust them first, to trust God, to know about that before other influences start coming in.
Yeah, but I think you're their real female role model. I think you above everything else. I didn't make an issue about that. My girls watched those kind of things and I didn't even think about that, I have to say. But my girls are very strong feminists. Sometimes I think I've pushed them too much the other way because a man will never come and rescue them or speak for them or tell them what to do. But, you know, it's not something that I ever thought about was not allowing them to watch those sorts of things.
Where do you sit with this, Shona?
Mine didn't watch Disney much either. Same sort of thing. I didn't want my boys watching that for various reasons to do with the Bible, but also because while chivalry is a great thing, I don't want my boys to be running in to rescue girls. That's not what I want them to be doing.
So that means, well, you ladies do not want to be like have a guy cater to you, woo you into courtship or anything like that. Like
No. That's
a different thing.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
Okay, so how is it different?
Well, because you know, okay, the days of throwing your jacket on the ground and over a puddle and all of that's long gone. What I want my boys to strive for in their relationships is equalness. Not, I have to rescue her.
And I think there's more. You can get
want.
exposed to becoming a feminist and living an independent life. A lot of people have social media, so it's not just these films. So I'm kind of with Julie that you can't just cotton wool your children into this. No, you're not going to watch this because, like Julie, I think. As mothers, we have a large role to play with our daughters and our children.
And my girls are quite grown up now, and I hear them saying things that I said to them when they were young, and I think, okay, you were listening. I didn't think you were.
Shock horror, you listened.
It's burned into their memory.
And I know you touched on having God, and I know there's a Bible verse in Proverbs 31, and it talks about charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears God, she is to be praised. Now that I think is something that my mum drilled into me, and I'm drilling into my daughters.
But I want that drilled into them early on before the other influences. Yep, they're going to watch it at someone else's house, or, you know, school's going to have their influences, but I just sort of want to try and prioritise that influence. That's why I've chosen to do it that way.
Interesting. Look, no doubt there are arguments for both ends of this discussion, but as parents, you can't control everything. But in speaking of control, how do you control your child from having a tantrum? or a meltdown. In the Huffington Post, an article titled "Don't Say, Don't Cry" stated that whilst most of us want our children to stop crying, what they are actually doing is making use of the body's innate recovery system. So it's good to encourage them to cry when needed. The article included phrases that should be used, such as, "I'm sorry this is hard, I'm right here," or "I see how upset you are." Does this work for you? Shola's rolling her eyes already. So you would use these phrases.
No, not at all.
No? It doesn't. So this research is just throw it out with the...
And look, I've watched some mothers who are doing with this with their kids, and I'm just like, really? Who's the parent here?
What?
But crying is a part of emotion. That's being
Yes.
human. Are you saying that...
That's a gift God gave us.
If
to
they're
cry.
throwing a tantrum in the middle of the supermarket, that is not a God-given gift. I'm sorry.
It is for you to learn patience.
And you can't negotiate with an emotional 2-year-old.
No.
You know what? You can't even negotiate with an emotional 20-year-old.
That's it. Thank you.
So are you saying that it depends on what they're crying about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
So-
circumstantial.
Circumstantial.
Crying over, "I don't want to go to bed, I'm on the floor, throwing a tantrum," is one thing. Crying because you've been bullied
Or you've slammed your finger in a door.
door
Like, those
is
are
another
legitimate.
thing. Yeah.
Even
So I
with
think-
the bullying, okay, I understand the crying, but it comes to a point where it's got to be a discussion, not just this wholehearted...
But
Can
first
use
it's
it-
got to be an acknowledgement of
Sure.
their feelings, no
Sure.
matter what their personality is.
So are you saying you're not acknowledging your child's feelings? If they're upset, it's
Mine,
like,
mine are too
deal
old
with
to
it.
acknowledge. They can go acknowledge it somewhere else.
Changed over the years. What about when they were little?
Look, when they were little and they did actually... We had a saying in our house, don't come to me... Like, my kids would be forever asking for Band-Aids or to be fixed up or whatever. And I'd say, don't come to me unless there's blood. And make sure there's a lot of blood, OK? And that's pretty much how it was with lots of things.
Harsh.
Yeah, but let's face it, the world out there is very harsh.
It is.
It
So
is.
yeah.
Is that
be a
because
nice
you had
place-
boys? Do you think it's different because you've got girls,
No, I don't
Rachel
think they
and
should
Julie?
be
You've got
treated
girls.
differently. I don't think they should. And I think you need to realise too that some children work on a really high emotional level. Some children don't work on a very high emotional level.
Yep,
and
some are naturally more resilient.
Yeah, and they will emotionally, respond to some things on such a high level that the other one will hardly respond to.
Tessa was crying the other day and I was just sort of shushing her because I have said don't cry. And she's like, are you telling me not to cry? And I'm like, I said, no, you're welcome to cry, but we don't need to go on and on and on about it, because she gets to the fake cry bit and I'm like, nah.
Go to your room and cry.
That's what I would say to my second one. When you're, go to your room and come out when you're happy. 5 minutes later.
Look, ladies, we'll take it online because, well, while this Cry Me a River approach may or may not work for everyone, on the flip side, something that will have you breaking bread with your children and not your ears with their tears is Gia and Olive's Olive and Rosemary bread. Let's take a look.
So today we're going to make bread. Now I'm going to show you how to make the base of the bread, but we are going to add olives and rosemary to it to just make it like super wow. But if you have a bread maker at home and you know who you are, please clean the dust off it, dust it and take it out, because this is what we're going to use. I got this bread maker at a secondhand shop for $5 and it is awesome because I make bread for my kids every second day. It lasts for 2 days. There's no preservatives in it and you know what you're getting. So let's start. Should we start? So inside the bread maker, we've got just a little bread tin. So we've got 1 cup of wholemeal flour. Yeah, you can do it by yourself. Moses loves doing this because actually he helps me make the bread. He just thinks it's awesome. 1/2 cup of, oats, just oats. Put some oats in there. So oats, and we've got spelt white flour. I use spelt white flour because it rises nicely. So do you want to put oh, that's a bit hard. Let's do that. Oh, there we go. Yep, we've got that. And some sesame seeds. And no, not yet. We're not putting that in yet. We're putting the sunflower seeds. Awesome. And can you mix the dry ingredients together? Now, this is the liquid. This is the water. It's lukewarm water, and I've put yeast in it and the sugar. And this is where we mix it through. Oh, yeah, you can put the salt in as well. Yep, add the salt, and then that way you can mix it all through. Oh, there you go. Now mix it all through. Now, I let it sit for a few minutes until it's foamy on top. That's how the yeast is activated and you know it's ready to go. And we're going to add that. Momo, ready? And then add the oil as well. And then you mix it a little bit but the bread maker does all the kneading, so you don't really need to mix it that much. I just like mixing it a little bit. And as you can see, there's a little switch here, and I put it on rapid or turbo so that I have the bread in 2 hours. Oh, don't lick that one, it won't be nice. And over here, I've got the lights that'll show you. Once it's on rise, after it's finished kneading, and once it's on rise, that's when I add the olives, and then I add the rosemary. I fold it through, like just keep folding it through until it's all evenly put in there. Then I add the olives on top, and I spray a little bit of oil, a bit of rosemary on top, and then you shut your lid and keep going. And then you have your bread at the end, and we'll be back to see what that looks like.
We're making, I don't know, Mama.
You don't know? It's the bread, it's the finished result.
We're making sniff with salt.
Yeah, and we're finishing the results. Okay, so our bread is ready, and look at it, it's come out of the oven. We let it sit on a wire rack for a while just to cool down. It's still quite warm, but look at this bread. Look how amazing it is. Like, you saw me in the video, you saw me actually putting olives on top and some rosemary, and it had to rise, so then everything moved around. So the rosemary's on the side and the olives on the side, and I reckon we should just cut into it to see how awesome it is.
I just cut it.
Oh, look at that. Yes, please.
I'm cutting it.
And see that there's some rosemary in there as well. Some delicious olives, a bit of butter on top, and there you have it.
Well, our next guest, you may recognise her as our resident personal trainer. But what some of you may not know is that she has recently given birth to a gorgeous little boy named Leo and is a first-time mum. Now, congratulations, Alicia.
Thank you.
Welcome, baby Leo.
Hello. Actually, I think this might be the first real live baby we've had on screen.
Cool.
So, welcome to motherhood.
Thank you. Thank you.
I must check first before we get started.
Yeah.
How are you? How are you going?
I'm good. I'm good. I think I've come out of the fog. Like
How long did it take? How long did it take? Because
Probably
how old
6 weeks really was, the first 6 weeks was just full on. Yep. And then from there, it's just slowly, I've started to slowly feel back to myself a little bit.
Can I ask how long it's taken?
How old is Leo
Yeah,
now?
how old is
He's 3.5 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's been a journey, hasn't it?
It has.
It
It is a journey. It is. Is it a bigger shock than you anticipated, or is it
Yes.
what you thought was coming?
You know what? Funnily enough, the birth was awesome, like long but awesome. But it's post-birth that is full on to me. It's like, whoa, like you do all this planning for this thing that takes a day or two, but it's actually becoming a mum and breastfeeding and settling and all that you just go, you know, it's a bit crazy.
So what has become the biggest challenge for you since becoming a mum?
Breastfeeding.
Breastfeeding.
Yep, I've really challenged with that, just latching, and we thought he might need to get lip and tongue tie lasered and all that. And so, yeah, I've seen lactation consultants like probably half a dozen times to get help, and every time it's helped and it's gotten a little bit better and a little bit better. But even now, 3.5 months in, it's still not awesome. Yep.
What surprised you the most about the changes?
The emotional, just overwhelmedness, I guess. Like, I don't know.
It's unexplainable, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
And you
just
hear about it, but
Yep.
until you experience, you're like,
fully. Yeah. And you know what? I was really blessed. I had my mum stay with us for the first month and give that postnatal care. I honestly don't know how I'd survive without that. Yeah, it was just, it's just on
She
this
was your
roller
village?
coaster.
Was she
She
your
was my
village? Your husband was your
and
village?
my husband, they were amazing. Wouldn't be able to be here and smiling without them.
Yeah. Now, talking about coming back, are you back at work now?
Look, I have a couple of trainers that work for me, which has been awesome to, the first 3 months really I didn't have to do much at all with my business, but I'm back training others now. Myself, not so much yet actually. It's been different to what I thought. It's, I had a bit of bursitis on my hip after the birth, and so I actually had to see a physio, and I'm doing like reformer Pilates now to sort of help get better, but I'm actually still not back working out how I used to be, and I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, and I'm happy for the journey to take time and not rush. I just think
Did that take time for you to understand?
Yeah.
Because I would think you're a personal trainer. Girlfriend got back, her body back together. It didn't take you long, but obviously you're still going through the motions.
Times. Like I've just focused on trying to eat super healthy because I'm breastfeeding.
Yes.
And get a walk in when I can and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much. I haven't really done too much more than that yet, and I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
It'll come. Yeah.
So a couple of tips for new mums who are probably going through what you're going through. What would be a couple of really good exercises for them to do?
For fitness-wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just say getting out and walking is awesome because you're getting outside, you can hopefully go with a friend. And then, probably just some gentle Pilates to get started. Yep, and reformer I'm loving because you've got the machine and it's resistant, so you're building strength up at the same time. So, yeah.
And we've actually got some clips that you've done, some exercise clips that you've
With
put together
Leo.
with Leo, so that women who've had babies can
just a few
follow.
ideas at home that you can do, with your baby. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's fun.
Isn't he a super cute baby?
It's pretty awesome.
Well, look, thanks, Alicia, so much for hanging out with us, and it's lovely to see you, Leo. And hey, it's a great journey. We appreciate you sharing your journey with us.
More than happy to.
But if you don't know, now you know. Check out Alicia's clips on our Mums at the Table website and social media pages. She has some great workouts that are suitable for all levels of fitness and also for the pregnant mamas out there. But now it's time for the nutritional word on whole grains. Let's check this out.
Hi, I'm Gia and I'm here with our resident dietitian Trish.
Hi, Gia.
Hi, Trish. Thank you for coming.
Oh, pleasure. Always
Today
like
we're going to
being
talk
here.
about whole grains.
Definitely.
I'm excited. Whole grains. So, are whole grains the new health hero?
Well, if you listen to some of the trends out there, you would have to wonder when, diets like the paleo diet and low-carb diets, they pretty well shun whole grains, which is a real shame because whole grains really are a health hero. And that's because they're just full of so many different nutrients. In fact, there's 26 different kinds of nutrients in whole grains, things like vitamins and minerals, iron and zinc, important nutrients we have to have every day.
Okay, so
even
that's
protein,
So that's why, we have to eat them.
Yep.
They're a must.
Absolutely, I think so.
And so why? Because they've got iron and all different...
Yeah, plus eating whole grains, there's a numerous number of studies now that show that people who do eat whole grains regularly actually have better health. So they're less likely to get heart disease and type 2 diabetes, as well as lower blood pressure. And people who eat whole grains actually have lower body weights. And there was a recent study that showed that people who do eat whole grains get a similar benefit from eating 5 to 6 serves of fruits and veggies a day.
Okay.
So they're pretty well just as important as eating our fruits and veg.
Our fruits and veg. Wow, okay, so what do they look like so that our viewers can see, get an idea
How
of...
do you pick a whole grain?
Yes, and what to buy.
Yeah. Well, if you're looking at a packaged food, if you look on the ingredients list, look for words like whole grain or wholemeal and pretty well at the start of the ingredients list, and that will give you a good indication that the whole grain is being used in that food.
Okay.
But some really great everyday whole grain foods that you can try are your grains like brown rice or oats for porridge or muesli, or even some of the more trendy grains like quinoa and amaranth as well.
Yep.
But even good old pasta, so wholemeal pasta.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
The kids love the pasta, yes.
Easy to tell because it's that brown.
So you're looking for brown and not white so much.
Browner colour is definitely a good indication that it's whole grain. And when it comes to breads and whole grain crackers, look for the bits. That's a good indication that something's whole grain. And breakfast cereals, something like Wheat Bix or other whole grain flaky type breakfast cereals are excellent ways to get whole grain. And even popcorn.
Yes, popcorn, I saw that, yay!
That counts as a whole grain.
That's good because the kids love popcorn.
Definitely.
And I'm glad that's a whole grain.
Yes. Well. Yeah.
And so how much do you have to eat?
Well, probably if you think 2 to 3 serves a day will give you the target of 46 grams of whole grains, which sounds a bit of an odd number, but if we think of foods, something like 2 Wheat Bix for breakfast and half a cup of cooked grains at dinner will get you your whole grain target.
Awesome.
Or a slice of bread and some cooked grains and some popcorn, or even for crackers as a snack or for your lunch with some whole grains at dinner.
Yes.
Will really get you on your way to your whole grain target.
So if you just have like breakfast with fruit and wheat bix, and some lunch, maybe a sandwich with whole grains, like a salad sandwich, easy. But then at night you could have your dish with rice, or whatever that might be. So that's quite easy to do, and so it helps with the intestinal tract too, doesn't it?
That's right. So the whole grains keep all the fibre, which is really important to keep food moving through and keep us regular, and that's a really important thing to be aware of. But also the type of fibre in grains helps nourish and feed the bacteria that live in our bowel.
So the microbiome that we've spoken about before,
which has, research is showing it has a range of health benefits impacting nearly the whole body. So really important to have our whole grains. And if you're not having whole grains, it's pretty hard to reach a fibre target.
Well, there you go. Well, Trish, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about this. We're really looking forward to the next session we have, because I love hearing about all this nutritional stuff. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us.
Always a pleasure.
And we're looking forward to next time, because I love hearing all about this. So until next time, we'll see you then.
Going back to work after being a mamager raising kids can be daunting for most. Adapting to change, leadership, navigating your future career path and just staying relevant are some of the things we will be talking about with our next guest, career expert and founder of Change Meridian, boss lady Michelle Gibbons. Thanks for joining us, Michelle.
Oh, thank you. I don't think I've ever had anyone call me boss lady.
Sorry, I always have to add a little bit of slang to it. But I know as a mum who's been on mat leave for quite a bit of time, not saying the year.
We are.
I'm going to get straight into it. How do we stay relevant? And, because the working environment's always changing. So how do you keep on top of things and still keep relevant?
It's stay connected. So stay connected to your industry and your profession, and that may mean also staying connected to former work colleagues, because your work colleagues are part of your network, which is really important for when you want to get back into the workforce. And stay connected to where your industry or profession is going. It can be really easy to sort of distance yourself, but even if you can find 10 minutes a week or 15 minutes a week to read a news article or a journal or watch a TED talk or something that is connected to your profession, so you know where that industry is going and you're staying connected to it.
Because it can be really intimidating. Like, I'm literally at that phase where my youngest is going to school next year. That's on my mind at the moment. Should women in this position feel intimidated? Is there a reason for us to feel intimidated, sort of going back into the workforce?
Just go back. You've been a stay-at-home mum, but also doing your own business.
I've had a business at home, but I haven't, been in the workforce as such for about 10 years.
Which is the story for a lot of mums.
And do we have a right to feel sort of intimidated, or should we be like, you know what, hang on, I've learnt some skills, I can do this?
You've absolutely learnt skills, and you've learnt skills in a different environment. And so I always say to people, when you're thinking about going back into the workforce, the first thing to do is almost like a skills audit. And you sit and you look at all of the skills that you've got and which of them are transferable and adaptable, because during the time that you've been at home, you might have been involved in a PNC, you might have been involved in fundraising, you might have been on the school board. So there will have been a whole raft of things that you've done where you've acquired new skills, and it's owning those skills and seeing that as an important part of you in terms of how you've developed, so that when you're going back into the workforce, you're going back into the workforce proud. Here's all this great stuff that I've done, and I had all these skills before. I haven't lost those skills either.
So employers valuing these skills? Are you seeing a change?
I'm certainly seeing a change in terms of the workforce, in that it's much more flexible. And these days, it's much easier for women to work part-time, but also work from home. I know some organisations where it's not just the work from home, they're specifically setting up units that are work at home, which means they're designing it that they don't intend for you to ever step foot into the head office. You can work at home in a way that suits you, in a time frame that suits you. So there's a huge amount of flexibility, and that's the benefit of technology.
That's a really good thing for businesses to be looking at, so that women don't get stuck in this, I'm not good enough for anything.
Because that happens to a lot of us.
It does. And also what it means is that employers are losing this massive talent base. And we know that there's a shortage of talent in the workplace. And so why would you let talented females just walk out the door, not find a way to keep it?
And if someone's going to look after you, I just think mums going back would be so loyal and work really hard, especially if they feel like they're being looked after. Like, that's a win for everyone.
Absolutely. And I see that all the time. I always say to women, though, don't let them take advantage of you. I've had women in teams that I've worked with before, and they've gone, I'm going to work 4 days a week. And I go, great, awesome. Actually, they're going to end up doing 5 days a week, but they get paid for 4. And I remember saying to one of my team members,
I'm going to start paying you for 5 days a week. And she goes, but I can't work the 5th day. I said, no, I don't expect you to turn up in the office, but you are actually delivering 5 days worth of value. So be clear that when you go part-time that you really are still working part-time.
Would you advise mums who, you know, have young children to go back part-time or to keep their foot still in the door or not, or just go back full-time? What would your advice be?
I think it depends on your circumstances. And I always say everybody's unique and you need to understand the context and the environment that they're in. But if they can keep a foot in the workplace, that certainly makes it easier down the track for when they're looking to go back full-time because they've still got those connections and they've still maintained a skill set in a linear type of fashion.
What would you say to mums that never foresee themselves going back to work and think they're going to be a stay-at-home mum always?
Well,
There are some of us.
Yeah. Well, I always think you need to, it's almost like a risk policy where life will throw you curveballs and life never works out exactly as we've all planned it. And everything in life's a trade-off. If you decide to do one thing, often it means you can't do something else. And so if you're thinking you're going to be a stay-at-home mum forever, I would just make sure that there is something in the background that you've still got that you can draw on if circumstances change for you.
Like what?
Well, the circumstances might mean, you know, your partner might die, you might get divorced, whatever, and then you're left alone. But you've had this expectation of a life that is then not a life that's going to pan out. And so it is really important for women to look after themselves, to take care of themselves, to see that they still matter. And so that, yep, absolutely. Giving up your career to look after your children is a really rewarding, and people make a conscious choice about that, but also do it in a way that's wise, that you're not then walking away from everything, that you don't then have some power still in that relationship with a partner.
We were talking about intimidation before and going back and just mentally being sort of frightened of that space. What about remuneration packages? Should women sort of just go in and go, you know what, I'll accept whatever they're offering just to get my foot in the door? Or do you feel like they should be able to say, hang on, I'm actually worth this and speak up? What do you say to those women?
Negotiating is a really important trait and actually understanding how to negotiate. I do a lot of work with women on this because typically we don't put ourselves forward, and I always say to people...
And we're not good at negotiating.
Well,
Can we get some tips on that?
maybe I'll come back. That's another episode. Because I always say to people, don't ask, don't get. And in my days when I worked in corporate, the men would always ask for the pay rise. The women just assumed that it would get figured out. And I always say to people, be really deliberate. Know the industry, know your worth, and then be prepared to ask for it.
So don't be afraid to ask when you're going back, because I'm like, heck, you know, what's the path that you're supposed to walk here?
Yeah, well, you do need to ask, but you ask at a certain point in the process, and so you also need to know what's reasonable and what's not reasonable. And I often say to people, ask for something that makes you feel a little nauseous. I like that.
I'm getting anxiety already.
Because then you know you're probably in the ballpark.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
my daughter went for an interview recently and they asked her what she thought she should get paid.
Yeah.
I would find that really intimidating.
That's something we're not used
No,
to in
no.
our generation.
Well, it's a different generation and workforce, and it's changing constantly. Like you see that people can work from home now, like you mentioned before. So
And it's really wise that you sort of say to keep in touch with previous colleagues or, you know, just something that's going on in the industry you're in.
and it also sounds like we need to plan.
Yeah.
Planning is really important. Think long term, don't think short term.
Yeah. It's been great having you. Thank you so much,
My
Michelle,
pleasure.
for the career tips. If you want to hear more of Michelle's career tips, hit us up at Mums at the Table or go to michellegibbons.com. Ladies, I love your work. Thanks for the chat as always. And you at home, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to share, like and subscribe if you are watching us online. Link up with us on social media pages because there's always room for more Mums at the Table. Until next time, God bless.